Spring's almost here. And you've got £5,000 to £7,000 to spend on a little pocket rocket, something you can enjoy through spring and summer, and maybe even sell at the end of summer, or just tuck away somewhere and save it till next year. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I am in a Mazda MX5 NC. Now, NC stands for Mark III. There were the NA, the NB, the NC and the ND. This is Mark III, if you like, in the MX5 world. This is a 2-litre Sport Tech. It comes with the rag top rather than the hard top, because you can get these in both a metal folding hard top and the Roadster, and this is the pure Roadster. It has around 158 brake horsepower, not a great amount of torque, but you know something? That is the cloud with the silver lining, because no torque means you get to do a lot more of this. A lot of gear changing in this car, and actually when you drive it through, well, S's like the ones I'm going through right now, this is where this car actually comes alive. It's beautifully balanced. Its poise is just perfect. The Mazda have clearly done a lot of work trying to make this a really good driving car, and they've succeeded on every count you can think of. It seems to want to go exactly where you want it to go. This is the sort of car that responds to every input that you make. But it's the analog nature of this car. With such little torque, you've got perfect weight distribution in this car. The way it handles and moves is just delightful. It has so much character. And then you have this gear change, which I think is just otherworldly, to be brutally honest. It's so slick and precise. It never feels notchy. Always just slips in and out of gears with a very short throw. And it actually makes for an incredibly good drive. You can pick these up for very little money in actual fact, anything between £2,000 to £5,000 even. But if you've got £5,000 to £7,000, you will get one of the nicest driving small sports cars that money can buy. 158 brake horsepower, engine at the front, 2 litres, drive at the rear, and a manual gearbox, a 6-speed manual gearbox. And I have to say this is one of the nicest 6-speed manual gearboxes you're likely to find on any car anywhere. Everything from the steering, the clutch, the brakes, everything just seems to be so well weighted and so well judged for this car that it just makes it a real joy to drive. The wheels on this car were fitted to try and make it look a little bit like a toy Hot Wheels car. That was my sort of aim, if you like, of what I wanted to do with this car, and I think it's sort of achieved that. Let me know in the comments what you think, because I get more comments about the wheels than anything else on this car. I wanted to get some flat faces, and they seem to work really well. They are the BOLA B5s. Secondly, this car has the Cobra Road exhaust pipe. So the original exhaust pipe was looking a little bit worse for wear, and I thought it really does need to be sorted out, and I decided to actually go and just get the Cobra exhaust. After a lot of positive reviews, if you like, about the exhaust itself, it actually makes the car sound quite fruity. It doesn't pop and crack on, bang as much as you'd want it to, but to be honest, it's not that kind of car. This is one of those cars that you really cruise around in. And then the other modification that this car has is the anti-roll bars. They are lifted straight out of an RX-8, they bolt straight in, they are beefier, and they stop the car from rolling quite as much as the standard car does. Other than that, there are a few cosmetic things that we've had done to it as well. So it has an Apple CarPlay and Android system in here, which is a little bit foggy at the moment, because it's got a little bit of damp in there through the winter. The other thing that this car also has are these lovely aluminium handbrake pull and the gear lever knob as well, and they just set this car off. It feels a little bit like a Honda Civic Type R, I've got to say it. Not quite, but it's almost there. This is one of those cars that makes you smile. Every car, has a character or a soul. This one has a massive personality, and I think the exhaust and the way it actually drives now just give it that lovely sound, that beautiful sort of exhaust note, and it just looks really nice. It drives really well, and whether you're driving around on a country lane like I am right now, or taking it through some really sharp twisty bits, this car handles beautifully, it drives incredibly well, and it does actually turn heads too. It's got a little bit of everything going for it. one, very low mileage, only 45,000 miles on the clock, handful of owners, clearly garaged from new. They're the sort of cars that you really want to be looking for. It also had a full service history, and I've got to say, when you bring it all together, this is a lovely, lovely little car. Now, if you do find a good one, I would strongly recommend that you do what I've done. Take it into a specialist and get the underside treated. Now, don't just get them to spray any kind of oil or some kind of greasy thing over it. That isn't going to do anything. You really want to strip everything back, respray the underneath in a proper rust-inhibiting paint, and then coat it over. And that's the only way you're going to stop these cars from rotting away. The cheapest ones are not always going to be the best ones. If you're just going to keep it for 6 months and get rid of it, fine, not a problem. Buy the cheapest one you can find. My recommendation would be to just spend that little bit more. Find yourself one that's going to be in slightly better condition. You'll probably find that it's been looked after better as well if it's not rusty. You know, generally, these things all go hand in hand. Careful owners won't drive these cars through the winter. They will put them away or tuck them away, and they'll be used as a second car, which is probably a good thing for it. But either way, whether you buy a ropey one or whether you buy a really nice one like this, you are going to end up with one of the nicest driving cars that money can buy. The things that I don't like about this car, well, the seats aren't that great, to be brutally honest. And there are very, very few options for seats in these as well. They don't offer much support, they're very flat. The seat squab isn't terribly comfortable either, and they're very short for thigh support. You can get bride seats to actually fit, but they're not brilliant, to be brutally honest, and the bucket seats are very difficult to get in and out of. There's not a lot of space in the cabin in this car as it is. It is quite cramped in here, I've got to say that, and I'm not terribly large. The other thing I don't like about this car is the quality of the roof. The standard cloth roof on this car is almost porous in many respects. I've tried to treat this with all sorts of things, and you still get a lot of damp in the winter. You just cannot avoid it. There are no leaks anywhere, all the door seals are fine, carpets aren't wet or anything like that, but the car does attract a heck of a lot of moisture. And that was another NC owner, and you can see the old wave. That's just a common thing with Mazda MX-5s. This exhaust is really, really good. It just gives this car a sort of character that you wouldn't normally find anywhere. Now, this is a 60-mile-an-hour road. I gave it the full beans there, and I'm doing 45. It's Group 27 insurance, which isn't massively high. I mean, you could go out and get something like a Porsche Boxster, but you're going to have very high running costs. You're going to have high insurance, especially if you're young. You're going to find it difficult to get insurance in the first place. Now, 158 brake horsepower isn't exactly a huge amount, not in today's world anyway. It's actually quite mediocre in some respects. But then this is a 16-year-old car. It's naturally aspirated and completely analog. And it has one of the best gear changes you're going to find on any car anywhere. And I think that's what sets this car apart from everything else that you can buy. There are so many different cars that you can actually buy for around this £5,000 to £7,000 mark. But none of them, I can tell you this now, none of them have such a sweet driving experience. They're all Germanic or, you know, unless you get the Honda S2000, and trying to find a Honda S2000 at this sort of price point is very, very difficult. There might be the odd one, but it could be a very ropey one. In fact, I actually own a Porsche Boxster 986S and a BMW Z4 M Coupe, and they're completely different animals. Even a box standard Z4, they come with a 6-cylinder engine, they feel very different, they feel much heavier. And this, in contrast, feels light, it feels nimble. It just has a little bit of a hooligan nature. It's actually all the better for it. I think this is probably one of the best cars you're going to be able to find at this price point. £5,000 to £7,000 with summer just around the corner. My goodness gracious me, if you're looking for a summer fun car, this is it. You don't really want to be looking any further than one of these. So in conclusion then, what do I think? It's very, very hard to beat a Mazda MX-5, especially the NC model, because it's the one that is, I'm not going to call it unloved, but out of the 4 variants of this car, this is the one that Mazda MX-5 aficionados, I'm not going to say dislike, but will rate further down the pecking order. Yes, I don't think it's quite as engaging to drive as an A, B, or a D, but to be brutally honest, whichever model of Mazda MX-5 you buy, you're certain of one thing: you are going to buy one of the best driving little sports cars that money can buy. And even if you buy a really cheap one, even if you buy a really ropey, rusty one, you know something, you're still going to be smiling, because that's the nature of this car. Every single mile that you will do with this car is going to be an adventure, and you're going to be engaged by it, and you're just going to love it. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you've liked this episode, please do hit that subscriber button. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers by my birthday, which is in August. So got a few months to go yet. Hopefully we'll achieve that. But more than that, I just want to say a massive thank you for watching. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next one.